1 year ago, in December of 2023, the Lunduke Journal and O'Keefe Media published a series of leaks from whistleblowers with inside IBM and Red Hat. Those leaks were what I would consider to be the biggest tech news story of the last year, possibly of the last several years. Those leaks alleged and provided significant amount of evidence to support the accusations that IBM and Red Hat had significantly racist hiring practices where they had quotas of how many people of certain skin colors they could and could not hire, and specific bonuses that were given to people for not hiring white people. We have video evidence of this from the CEO of IBM. We have video evidence of this from the CEO of Red Hat, Matt Hicks, the largest Linux company in the world, where he specifically talked and bragged about needing to hit those anti-white quotas. We even have, and this is truly spectacular, the complete PowerPoint slide deck of an anti-white presentation where they say, quote, "White people feed and thrive on power at the expense of other races," and go on to talk at length about all of the many bad things about white people, including things you can say that are bad about white people and how you can't say those things about black people because black people are great. It's really possibly the most racist PowerPoint slide deck in human history. Now, since that time, there's just a huge amount. If you want to go through the absolutely massive number of emails, PowerPoint slide decks, and everything, I'm putting a link to the What We've Learned So Far article wherever you're watching or listening to this, and you can go through all of them yourself. But what I wanted to go through today is what has resulted from that, right? This was 1 year ago when I would say it's not even arguable. The most explosive and crazy news story hit the big tech world. What has happened? Well, we have 3 lawsuits pending right now in the courts in front of judges alleging anti-white discrimination of employees, one by the government itself. And I also want to go through, after we've gone through the status of all those lawsuits, so you know exactly what's happening. I also want to go through what has happened to the people who perpetrated this racism. What has happened to the CEO of Red Hat and IBM? What has happened to all of the people who crafted a PowerPoint slide deck telling you how evil white people is? And to be clear, this was a slide deck. This really needs to be said. That was an official Red Hat slide deck with Red Hat logos all over it, given to Red Hat employees, developed with Red Hat money, and officially sanctioned by Red Hat management. So what has happened to all of the people that were involved in this extreme racism that has resulted in massive lawsuits against the tech giant? It would seem like something would happen, but has it? Let's go through all that. But first, let's talk about the individual lawsuits. The first one comes from an individual named Allan Wood. Now, Allan Wood put forth a very simple lawsuit. It alleged significant racial, religious, and gender discrimination, and the discriminatory policies there at Red Hat. So this is Wood v. Red Hat. This was filed on May 8th, 2024, just a few months after these leaks came out. Right now, the current status of this whole thing, here's the complaint for those of you who want to see this. Alan Kingsley Wood v. Red Hat. The current status is actually quite simple. They are waiting right now for the judge in this case, a Judge Nye, to rule on whether or not Red Hat can force arbitration. So what's happened here is in October, or actually in October, IBM was pushing forward, trying to, as they put it, compel arbitration, basically saying, let's take this out of the courts and force a non-court sanctioned or a non judge, arbiter to arbitrate this issue, get it out of the limelight, make it so people aren't noticing it anymore, and move forward. The lawyers on behalf of Allan Wood have said no. They replied on October 16th, a response to the motion to compel arbitration and stay the proceedings. So they obviously want to continue with the suit. So they're waiting on Judge Nye to rule on that. And that is the last status that we know as of mid-October. There is, from what I know, there is no deadline for that. We're just waiting on the judge to do something. And as we go through these lawsuits, you'll note, holy heavens, does this take forever to move through the legal system? All of these lawsuits, they are like frozen icebergs of molasses. They go incredibly slow. It's absolutely wild. The next lawsuit is actually pretty interesting because it's the state of Missouri. The state of Missouri has filed a lawsuit against IBM for violating the Missouri Human Rights Act. This is a real thing, and it's legit. If you go through the whole thing here I've got the state of Missouri, Andrew Bailey, Attorney General v. IBM. Again, IBM owns Red Hat. It's kind of all the same company. It is absolutely fantastic here. Let me read a little tiny bit to you now. The state of Missouri, by and through Andrew Bailey in his official capacity as Attorney General of Missouri, petitions the court under section blah, blah, blah for injunctive relief against defendant IBM. IBM gives its executives two choices: discriminate or lose your job. IBM uses its diversity modifier to shackle executive compensation to meeting race, color, national origin, sex, and ancestry-based employment quotas. If an IBM executive meets the quotas, IBM gives them the carrot, a plus on their bonus. But if he or she fails to meet it, IBM swings the stick. They lose part of their bonus and eventually their job. Racial quotas, and this is the key part, violate Chapter 213 of the Revised Statutes of Missouri, which protects applicants and employees from unlawful discriminatory practices. Based on nothing other than the leaks from the Lunduke Journal alone, they have a really good case here. the amount, I mean, you add the Lunduke Journal leaks plus the O'Keefe media leaks and a handful of testimonies from employees. It is kind of a slam dunk case because all of the things that this lawsuit from Missouri alleges IBM did, IBM brags about, right? So then the question is whether or not those things are illegal. And since, because of the way IBM worded everything, they worded it almost exactly the way the law says it is applied. So you cannot do these things. IBM said flat out, they are without a doubt discriminating based on skin color. So here we are. That was filed on, let me see here. I'll get the dates right for you here. On June 20th of 2024. IBM filed, naturally, a motion to dismiss this case. They're like, you can't have this case. On November 8th, the state of Missouri filed a suggestion in opposition to that motion, which basically means, nah, we're not going to dismiss this. Missouri, the state of Missouri argued that IBM's arguments to dismiss the case are what they call merits questions, and that those cannot be addressed at the motion to dismiss stage. Missouri also argued that if the court considers the merits questions, it should hold that IBM's racial quotas are unlawful in light of the Missouri Human Rights Act and the Supreme Court decision of Students for Fair Admissions. Based on what I can see, that does make a whole lot of sense. Now we are waiting again for the judge to rule on that motion to dismiss officially. We don't have a ruling as of early November. Here we are, early December. Things move glacially slow in December, so it might be a while before we actually get a ruling that the case can even continue. And then there's a third lawsuit going on. This is Dill versus IBM. This is this latest lawsuit. Randall Dill, a former IBM employee, says that the company fired him because he is a white man. Of course, this follows other lawsuits, and it is just kind of an ongoing thing. This lawsuit was filed on August 20th of this year. This was later in the summer. And here's the current status of this lawsuit. On October 23rd, IBM filed a motion to dismiss. Of course they did. You see, like a running theme here. IBM's like, no, please make this go away. Please, for the love of God, make this go away. Their argument was that Dill failed to provide evidence that IBM had unlawful quotas. I'm going to read that again. They argued in court, IBM argued in court, that you can't possibly let this go to trial because Dill provided no evidence that IBM had any sort of hiring quotas. When the evidence literally has video of the CEO saying, we got hiring quotas, and here's our exact number of hiring quotas, and then follow-up emails and communication specifically talking about how people will be punished if they don't adhere to the hiring quotas based on skin color. Like, they literally have the CEO bragging about it, and IBM had the nerve to go in court and say, no, that doesn't exist. That whole video doesn't exist. The emails don't exist. This PowerPoint slides don't exist. Nothing exists. So, of course, naturally, Dill's lawyers responded. On November 20th, Dill responded to IBM's motion to dismiss, arguing that he sufficiently pled both direct and circumstantial evidence of improper termination and discrimination in the corporation, which he did. You can go through, again, all of these are linked. If you follow that, what we've learned so far for the IBM and Red Hat links article I've got for you, and you follow the links in there, you can find the full PDF files of all of these lawsuits. So you can go through them all yourself if you like. They are amazingly detailed. All right, now we're just waiting. At this point, we're just waiting to see what happens. But here's the crazy thing. Any one of these could have dramatic consequences for both IBM and Red Hat, as well as several other companies that have similar policies, because IBM and Red Hat aren't the only dog in town, the only game in town that has these crazy racist policies, right? So however these end up going down, however the judges end up ruling on any one of these three cases, which, let's be honest, all three of them are probably going to move forward because the amount of evidence is overwhelming. It's just too extreme. This could cause significant changes to corporations being held liable for those racist hiring quotas. So if, let's say, Randall Dill or Allan Wood or Missouri wins the first case, now there's precedent for the corporations having to pay damages potentially for this sort of racist practices. And these corporations have been racist against thousands and tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people at this point. So the number of people that can come after them for lawsuits are potentially completely and utterly catastrophic from the point of view of the finances of these companies. So the damages that could be done here are off the charts. This could end Red Hat. This could end IBM. And a lot of people are saying, no, it couldn't. It could, because it impacts so many employees. Once precedent is set, the companies have violated this law so flagrantly and in such large and obvious ways, it becomes almost impossible to lose the case against IBM and Red Hat once that first domino falls. So we're just waiting to see what happens here, because the ramifications are going to be extreme. Now, what has happened so far, though? As we know how IBM and Red Hat are responding, they're just trying their best to make these cases go away. They're failing so far, but they're trying their best to make them be quiet, don't talk. They're failing so far. And of course, most of the tech journalism and tech media out there is ignoring this entirely, because most of the tech journalists out there absolutely love extreme racism and the DEI practices. But that's another story. But what's happening with inside the corporations right now, right? when we've got a situation where IBM and Red Hat have been called out on these issues and are facing lawsuits, is there any repercussions already? Are people still employed who created these rules, who pushed these agendas, who made these PowerPoint slide decks where they were like, white people are the devil? Well, let's walk through it, shall we? First, let's talk about Arvind Krishna. Arvind Krishna was the CEO of IBM as all this was going on. Guess what? He's still the CEO of IBM. So the board hasn't forced him out. How about the CEO of Red Hat? It's a guy named Matt Hicks. And yeah, for those of you watching the video, I'm showing you their LinkedIn page because I don't know, why not? Matt Hicks was the CEO of Red Hat at the time. I have Matt Hicks on video with a Lunduke Journal exclusive video where he literally, I think I've got it right here. Where is that at here? There he is. There's Matt Hicks specifically going on a rant about how, yeah, they have racist hiring quotas. Ain't that delightful? He's still the CEO of Red Hat, right? So the board hasn't punished him in any way, shape, or form. But then let's talk about that PowerPoint slide deck I mentioned earlier, because this is a fascinating one. What they called this was the Allyship Kickoff Presentation Slide Deck. And I've got the whole thing posted at the Lunduke Journal, so you can read through the whole thing. And what's great about this PowerPoint slide deck is I got the originals. I posted the screenshots so that it's a little easier to go through and kind of protects the identity of the person who leaked it to me. But I also have the speaker notes, and I've included the complete unedited text of the speaker notes on each slide. So little notes for each slide that say, hey, here's what you should say. You know, welcome message to everyone and disclaimer, this is blah, 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 blah. And here's the Build Allyship Kickoff. It was dated August 12th of 2020, right? That was when this was dated. And the stuff that's in here is off the charts racist. It talks about defining allyship and basically white people are very, very bad. If you are white, here's a list of adjectives that describe you, and it's all bad stuff. You are about like all sorts of horribleness. They talk about how whiteness is dividing and conquering, and everything else exists to help whiteness, and whiteness is evil, and just they have like a whiteness cycle of evilness, and it's off the charts. It's really, really, really off the charts. The stuff that it talks about is just crazy. It talks about how if you're black, you have excellence and joy and achievement and beautifulness and everything else. And if you're white, that you just steal and erase and are violent and awful, right? So this is official Red Hat company policy, and this is officially sanctioned by Red Hat, put together by Red Hat employees. According to the presentation and other emails that we've published, it was approved by Red Hat senior management and given to Red Hat employees. So this is official Red Hat training. Well, we have a list of all the people that were involved in this presentation, both the allyship group lead, a lady named Ann Moorer, as well as a number of other people who were thanked and credited with putting together this presentation. So we've gone through all of these. And I wanted to walk this through with you right now, because are these people still at Red Hat? You would think with all of the blowback and all of the potential legal damages and the extreme level of illegal racism with lawsuits coming from states because of their actions, you'd think that these people would not necessarily still be employed, right? Like if you have an employee that's like, you know what? I'm only going to hire white people. Let's stop hiring black people and Asians, and let's put together a presentation that uses every negative adjective we can think of about black people, list them, and then tell them how white people are good, and then let's put the corporate logo on it, and then let's give it to all the employees. If an employee did that, they'd be fired, right? Instantly. And they should be. That would be crazy. That would be just off the charts psycho levels of racist. That's what these people did, except against white people. And so Are they still at Red Hat? Let's look. Ann H. Moorer, the allyship group lead, who gave that particular presentation, or at least a large part of it, during the kickoff meeting back in 2020. She is the account operations lead for financial services, and she is still at Red Hat. She has not been fired. As far as I can tell, she has not been punished. Kendall Boo Boo House. His name is Boo Boo. He is the senior marketing designer. He is still at Red Hat. He is credited, all the rest of these people are all credited with helping put this extreme racist policy presentation together. Let's see, we got another one here for Virginia Bryan. She is a customer marketing manager at Red Hat. Yeah, she's still at Red Hat, still a customer marketing manager. We got Ginny Hamilton. She used to be go by the name of Ginny Hamilton. Now she's Ginny Holden. She was the community manager for Red Hat's CIO publication. She now doesn't work at Red Hat anymore. In fact, she's the only one in this list that does not work at Red Hat anymore. She now works as a director of content strategy at Gartner. Yeah. How about Khalik Ray? Khalik Ray is a senior interaction designer at Red Hat, still at Red Hat. And Lauren Pritchett. Lauren Pritchett is a manager of editorial content strategy at Red Hat, which includes things like opensource.com. You ever look at the articles and whatnot of opensource.com? She's part of the team that puts that together inside Red Hat. Yeah, she is still also at Red Hat. It is quite fascinating to me, not surprising, but fascinating, that almost everyone heavily involved with the extreme perpetration of off-the-charts illegal racism within Red Hat, the largest Linux company in the world, and their parent company, IBM, are still at the corporation. Lawsuits are going on, filed by past employees and by state governments. And there is an extreme, overwhelming amount of evidence supplied by a multitude of whistleblowers inside these two corporations, as well as by employees themselves in the lawsuits. And yet, despite the overwhelming evidence, despite the blatant illegal actions and policies, despite the morally horrific racist actions of all of these people, they're all still there. What does that tell us? It tells me that Red Hat and IBM, they're holding on to this. I have seen no evidence to suggest at this point that Red Hat and IBM are backing away from these policies. All of the people perpetrating the policies are still in place. They're trying to make the lawsuits go away. They've made no announcement of changing their corporate policies. As far as I can tell, the policies, these racist, illegal, and disgusting racist policies, are still all in place. Now, what's interesting is, as you look outside at the big tech world, at tech foundations and companies, some organizations are starting to distance themselves from these racist policies, from diversity, equity, and inclusion, from the woke policies of discriminating against people based on skin color and gender and other things. We just saw recently the Linux Foundation came out and for the first time in years made an annual report where they don't even mention diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is a massive change from years past, where the Linux Foundation used to scream from the rooftops that they were essentially more about DEI policies than they were about software. But now that seems to have changed. So at least from a messaging standpoint, some organizations are realizing this isn't going well. There are legal ramifications here. There are moral ramifications. There's publicity issues here. But IBM and Red Hat, I wouldn't go so far as to say they're doubling down, but they're certainly not backing away from all of these policies that are getting them sued. I'm going to stay on top of all three of the lawsuits. I've also heard in the wind about another lawsuit that may be coming out here shortly. And of course, I'll report on that when and if it happens. And we'll keep an eye out. We'll keep watching this, because the results of this could be truly earthquake level of crazy in the tech industry. If Red Hat and IBM lose these lawsuits, oh boy, the fallout could be off the charts. So that's where we're at as of now, as of December 15th, 2024, roughly to the day almost of when the initial leaks happened last year. And we're seeing massive change. I think a lot of us would look at it and say, I wish these change would come faster. But the reality is the courts move slowly. And the reality is a lot of people who are currently employed by IBM or Red Hat, or were until recently, they don't want to put their livelihood and their careers at jeopardy, in jeopardy. And so that's why you saw the lawsuits trickle out. We had lawsuits hit in, what did it happen? In May, then June, then August, and now all of them are percolating through the courts. And now there's one more kind of dangling out there that looks like it might come in. And the courts just move slow. That's the reality. I was looking at, just to put this all in context, I was looking at another lawsuit that's currently going on against Mozilla Corporation, just as an example, the makers of Firefox. And their lawsuit is getting a date, right? Has a date set for it. And I'll probably talk about this in the days ahead. But that date is like the end of next year. Like it's gonna, by the time this lawsuit is decided, I mean, that lawsuit could be 2 years old. And the same could realistically very much be true of IBM and Red Hat. Those corporations are going to drag this out as long as possible. They wait as long as possible to make responses. That makes it all take a little longer. Right? And they do every kind of motion they can. Motions to dismiss, motions to compel arbitration, even when the motions are nonsensical. Like in this case, IBM keeps making these arguments that, what do you mean racist hiring quotas? We there's no evidence here to suggest racist hiring quotas, when like there's video of the CEO literally saying, "Yay, racist hiring quotas." And so like obviously the lawyers for IBM and Red Hat, they know that. Like they're not dumb. They can read. And so they know the evidence is there. But if they file these motions, it kicks it down the line a little bit further and forces the plaintiffs, right, the people bringing the lawsuits, to pay more money, to wait longer. And IBM and Red Hat are essentially trying to wait these people out until those people go bankrupt and can no longer continue their lawsuit. That's the strategy. That's a common strategy. Everyone knows you go up against these big corporations, you expect it to cost a mountain of money because it's going to take years and years, because they're going to file every single thing they can to make it take longer. That's what they do. That's how they make this try and go away. The Lunduke Journal will be here to report on it every step. So try as IBM and Red Hat might, this story does not go away. Their racism will continue to be reported on, and I will continue to watch and see what they do in response. Thank you to all of the Lunduke Journal subscribers. If you go over to lunduke.com right now, you will find links to everywhere you can read, listen, watch, and support the Lunduke Journal. We are on almost every platform at this point that has any value for us to be on. You can watch our shows on X. You can watch our shows on locals, on YouTube, on Rumble. We're even on Facebook. Now, you want to go anywhere, you can go ahead, wherever you're at, you can watch and share the content from the Lunduke Journal. So thank you to all the Lunduke Journal subscribers for making it possible. Again, go to lunduke.com. All the information is there. If you want to pitch in and help keep the lights on here at the Lunduke Journal and keep our fight against big tech going strong. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare, end broadcast.